Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Govera Insights, where we speak with leading industry experts to learn more about how you should manage your wealth and how you should manage the markets. Today, we have a very special guest, Mr. Manish Gunwani. He is the CIO of Equity Investments at Nippon India Mutual Fund. Manish graduated from IIT Chennai with a BTech and has a postgraduate diploma from IIM Bangalore. So Manish, welcome to Kuvera first of all. And just to continue with the same theme, right? If you invest for 10, 15 years, you will see drawdowns, right? Your portfolio value will go down 20, 30, 40%, whatever.
Yeah.
How do fund managers manage that period, right? So what is your mantra? Of course, we are going out and we are telling investors that continue your SIP. If
Yeah.
you're buying at 100 NAV, then at 60 NAV, why are you stopping? Don't stop your sales unless you need the money. If you need a financial emergency, that's a different question. Outside of that, continue. So, but from a fund manager's perspective, how do you guys think about it? How do you contextualize a situation like this?
So,
What discussion happens in your groups?
right, right. So one is, I think there is a base view, right? I mean, ideally, the base view is you will have hopefully a business which is run by good people, a business which is catering to a large market, so that there is scope to grow for 5, 10 years, and you're buying it at a valuation which is reasonable, and that's the classic way of compounding money in equities.
Right.
And that is your base view, that is your base portfolio. Um, but you also need to obviously be cognizant of the cycles around that business. So I'm not saying that we buy a business and don't discuss it, or fill it, shut it for 20 years. You can't do that because technology is changing. The economy goes through various cycles which favors different sectors. So, for example, if you're feeling good about the economy from the next 2, 3 year perspective, you obviously will have cyclicals like banking, cement, steel, whatever. If you feel that the economy is topped out and is going to slow down, you will have different sectors. All of them may be good businesses, but you'll have to choose between sectors, between industries, between stocks. So we do debate. It's not that a day like this will not affect what we're talking, what we are discussing. But at the same time, as I said, basically your base portfolio is like 80-90% of my portfolio would not change because of.
Trust the process, right? I think it's
Yeah,
kind of like at the end of the day, is that what it kind of boils down to? The
yeah.
markets are booming, but you trust the process. Markets are going down, but you trust the process. And that process involves, comparing different sectors, comparing different industries, comparing different companies within the same industry. But at
Yeah.
least you're not. It's not like just because the markets are down, your process is vastly different than if the markets are up.
No, no, no. So the process, as I said, a lot of our work, for example, is more about debating, for example, if battery business, like car battery business, what kind of multiple it deserves, because maybe in 10, 15 years, electric vehicles will take over. And so then there are a lot of businesses which in 10 years may look very different from what they're doing because of technology, because of regulation, because customer preferences are shifting. So a lot of a discussion on that, and that you don't once you take a call on, let's say, saying that this industry is going to get disrupted, so I'll not invest in that business. Those calls are not going to change on a day like this, right? Those calls will change on a 5, 10 year call. But at the same time, let's say I'm over with banking, um, I will take note of the fact that if globally US bond yields are going up, will it have an impact on the global economy? Will it slow it down? Because we all know in a slowing economy, banking will underperform.
Correct.
So, not that one day's data will give you that insight. It's a kind of journey over multiple quarters. But yeah, you need to be thinking about the cycle of the economy, the cycle of the industry all the time. So you do look at this data, but yeah, you don't change your portfolio too much. You'll probably change it slowly once you feel that, like today, I guess the base case we are having is that um, as more and more economies open up, as more and more sectors open up over the next 6 to 12 months, um, both global growth and domestic growth will improve. Maybe a slightly inferior business which was available very cheap 12 months back, which you bought not a heavyweight, but what you bought for a cycle. Now, if its view on the cycle has changed, then you are okay to say that okay, let's exit the stock. So I think one of the key things, as I say, answers in our business are difficult, but
Right.
asking the right question is very important. So I think a lot of it is about what are you trying to achieve. So for us, we are obviously trying to beat the benchmark by as wide a margin as possible. But being benchmark centric is very essential to our DNA.
Fair enough. Fair enough. No, see, I think that's a very interesting point also, because I think a lot of investors, when they get into or when they start dabbling in stocks themselves, their North Star is just returns. I need very high returns very quickly. And that kind of creates this whole perception where they start looking at, okay, last year which stock performed well, last 3 months the stock performed well, right? And I find that when someone just starts investing in stocks or dabbling in stocks, they're most attracted to a momentum kind of strategy. Well, it's very easy to contextualize. You don't need to know anything about the business, anything about the management, you don't need to know anything about anything. You just need to know which stocks did the best in the past 6 months, which is a simple answer, and then you say, okay, I buy it, right? And I think a lot of the other things that you've spoken about, right, like how you contextualize where you are in the business cycle. I don't know if a lot of individual investors think like that or have the right tools to be able to think about, okay, that there is a business cycle, okay, there's a bond cycle, there's an equity cycle, and how things will work in that
Yeah.
cycle will differ for different industries. So uh, it's some of those things. I think it's one of those things that you pick up once you're at the job for a very long time, and it's also probably, I think, the biggest differentiator when when someone asks us this question that, hey, you know what, I can invest in stocks directly. Uh, you can answer it many different ways. I mean, the simplest answer I can think of is literally this, right? You're spending 3 hours a week on selecting stocks. You're competing with guys who are super smart, who are spending 15 hours a day doing the same thing, right? And I've been doing it for, like, I mean, in your case, like a really, really long time, right? So the odds, I mean, maybe you will be able to beat them over 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, because one time cost, no one knows what's going to happen. But law of large numbers always applies. In a 15-year, in a 20-year investing horizon, it's almost like saying I'll do weekend coding for 3 hours and then I'll suddenly become a top star. Not going to happen either.
Yeah.
It's the most important kind of principle in economics, the division of labor, right? You become good at what you do. So it's the only argument that I think people kind of also understand
Yeah.
that you.
But tell me something. Do you see a difference in behavior between age groups, online versus offline, by demographics?
Definitely, there is a difference. See, I think people's behavior. I don't think age matters. So what we have found out is when you start investing, right? Because
Hmm.
see, literally, if you're talking about someone who's invested for less than 10 years or less than 15 years, right? I can give you a band of what your XIRR will be if you tell me the year you started investing, and I'll be roughly right.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about, right? It's not rocket science, right?
Yeah.
It might seem like, oh, how did you know? Dude, you started in 2016. This is roughly the returns you have gotten as long as you've invested kind of,
Yeah.
with some discernible pattern. Unless you say you started in 2016, but you invested all your money in 2020 March, then of course your XRR will be 67% or 80%, some obscene number, but otherwise it won't be, right? So I think, and people's behavior depends a lot on their market journey, and that's also what we have. I think what we are seeing, and in some of the data that we are also seeing, right? People after their first big drawdown, there's usually a gap in investing. So one of the good things about having a platform like ours is that people they upload their transaction history going back ages, right? Uh, in our case, like we get the data starting. If you started investing in 1992, we would have all your mutual fund transactions from 1992 till date,
Wow.
right? So we can actually see that, okay, of course there is some survivorship bias. People who are uploading this data are the people who have continued to invest. But even in that data, you will see if their returns fall by 20 to 30%, that there is a gap of 1.5 2 years where they don't invest.
Oh, okay.
So you would, so that's why one of the biggest things we push for is that, when markets fall, don't stop investing, because we see that as a behavior, and it's age agnostic. I don't think age plays that much of a factor here, but I think your truth is largely derived by what the markets did for you,
Which
because
is,
everything
if you intuitively think about, you
right.
would buy a cloth or a car at a discount. But somehow people like stocks which have become expensive. Right?
People like stocks that have become expensive, and they also justify in very odd ways, right? So when the markets are going up, you're like, oh, you know what, markets are going up, it's great. The markets are falling, pretty much everyone has this thing ki abhi to aur girega, right? Like, it's going to go down more,
Yeah, yeah.
and somehow I'm going to come in and scoop it right at the bottom. No one scoops it right at the bottom ever. No one sells the top, no one buys the. I mean, by luck, out
Yeah,
of 50
even
of your transactions, one of your transaction might be the bottom. But
no,
that,
even even legends are struggling, right? I mean, there is a very well-known investor who's been, I mean, he's got a 20, 30-year track record, Seth Klarman, I mean, very well known.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But he's been conservative for last 5 years. He's not bought tech, and it's it's a very challenging profession in that sense, because everyone felt there is a certain price to earning band for S&P 500 or in the Nifty, and now everyone's finding that markets are remaining above that band for 5 years, 7 years now. So a lot of people who go by those bands have struggled. So yeah, you're correct. I mean, uh, it's not it's not physics or math that a certain theory will work all the time.
And I think people do get that, and I think a lot of investors, at least on our platform, they do understand that, and they do kind of it helps that we repeat kind of the same messages again and again and again, because I think that also is very important. A lot of times you think that, okay, you said it once and people will understand it, but I think they want to hear it again and again, because it kind of gives them the confidence that, okay, we are on the right path. It can be scary, right? I mean, there was this data from China and there's this data from India also. Um, in China, the market peaked in 2007. That's so 2005 to 2007 was the largest number of brokerage account opening that China had seen ever. And then 2007 market crashes, and 80% of those accounts that were opened in those last 2 years went dormant for the next 5 6 years.
Yeah.
So the real cost of chasing returns is not the 30 40% you lose, right? And that's the other thing. I personally think that a lot more people should be talking about, right? I'm a 25-year-old kid, right? I invest 50,000 rupees. That money goes down by 50%. I've lost how much? 25,000 rupees.
Yeah, but
It
because of,
seems like a lot of money to me. But if that forces me to never invest for the next 15 years, I have lost on years and years of 10% compounding just because I chased returns
yeah,
and I got a bad draw of hand. But that happens all the time. So I think our understanding more and more, the data we are seeing globally from our platform, from India, is that people's experience literally defines their path and their journey, right? So, and the same kid puts in 50,000, first 2 years, that money goes from 50,000 to 60,000. He's now a lifelong believer in equity.
but it's,
That 20,000 and the 20,000 gain and the 25,000 lost has no bearing on your lifetime wealth.
that's a very interesting point actually. There's a bit of luck then. Initially, you need
In the engineering term, you'll call it, there's path dependency.
right, right.
And there is path dependency. So we have become very firm believers that there is path dependency, and how you need to manage different people's expectations depends on their path. And that's where I think some of the nudges that we can bring in as an online platform becomes important, because we can see your path and then we can nudge you accordingly. But yeah, but anyway, so that's just it's an interesting topic, of course, because my, at least, and this is not our kind of house view, but my personal view is that, in the next 1 year or 2 years, if something similar does happen, if we do see a large correction, then so many people who have just joined the equity markets in the last year and a half, my guess is 50 to 60% are still going to go dormant. That human behavior is not so easy to change, because what happens is that the person changes.
But Gaurav, what we are also seeing is, at least when I look at mutual fund inflows, they typically now are a bit contra, in the sense that if you see March, April last year, there
Right.
were inflows, right? And then by November, August, November, it had turned to outflows. And this I've seen over now almost 5, 7 years, that
Right.
domestic inflows into mutual funds, um, they go up when markets fall, and they go down when markets go up. Of course, sometimes the problem is that they drop off too fast, and then the entire journey from May to today, the domestic investors in a way lost out most of it, because they started pulling out money in August, which was a bit different. But I'm just saying that, and I see it as a healthy sign that
Fine,
at
yes.
least
Indeed.
MF flows are a bit contra to the market direction. And I think it's good that um, FIs and domestics are, the institutional flows are going at different phases. So hopefully
I
that,
think part of it, and I mean, I could be wrong, but part of it is, that we have a very healthy group of people who have now been invested for 10 plus years.
yeah, yeah,
And their asset, even if they just follow something as simple as an asset allocation, their flows will be contra by definition.
yeah,
Right. So I think we do see some of that. I think it's always the new investors that I'm the most worried about. I think
yeah,
someone who survives for 5 to 7 years in investing,
yeah,
then they are going to go the long, they're in for 30, 40 years, right? Because you mentally, what happens is, in 6, 7 years, say your money goes from 100 to 160, even if it falls by 40%, it's still above 100. So
yeah,
mentally you justify, I didn't lose money.
correct.
Return jaye, I didn't, and so you stay on, and because you stay on, that money again goes to whatever 200, 250 in the next 10 years, 15, whatever the time frame is, right? So I think it's the first 2 to 3 years where that path dependency hits really hardest. So
Yeah.
we'll find out. We'll find out. But thanks, Manish. Thanks a lot. I think very interesting conversation. Again, Manish is the CIO for Nippon Asset Management. He's been managing money as a fund manager for a long time. Thanks, Manish, spending so much time with us and having this discussion with us. Fun.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.